Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Many of us feel the urge sometimes that we want to write a story, perhaps even a book that we can share with the world. That story may be a memoir about your life. It could be a nice little fantasy that you concocted into your head to take people on to a magical journey to a place far, far away. Whatever the case may be, we all certainly believe we've got a great idea when it comes to a book and maybe even gotten into the process of actually writing it. The question comes, what next? What do we do when it comes time to get this book published and get it out there into the hands of the people that you want to share this story with? On the program today, we're going to be joined with a guest who can offer some critical advice for new authors on what would need to be done for a successful transition from aspiring writer to respected author. We'll discover how to align our writing with our own life goals, evaluate your book's commercial potential, and make sure your book meets evolving industry and reader standards as well. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest who is an author and publisher who also realizes how daunting a book project can be by spending many years as a strategic planner, marketer, and educator. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program, as I said before, Gail Woodard. Gail, thank you for being on the program today.
Well, good morning, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Now, you like to encourage people to write books, and if they feel the urge to do so, why do you foster this idea?
Well, for me, the books, I think, are a wonderful, life-changing experience. And I think when we feel a call to do something creative, like write a book or share something we know, I think it's a way to live more fully. So following that call is something I just think folks should do. Writing is also a way of learning about yourself and, of course, sharing your life experiences.
You know, it's such an amazing journey when people begin to do this, but writing a book seems to be hard work, isn't it?
Yes, it can be very hard work. However, it's like if you enjoy it, then it doesn't always feel, sometimes it will feel like work, but it feels like work that's worth investing the energy in because the outcome is something that's meaningful to you.
So now, how do you suggest someone tackle this sort of undertaking?
Well, I will say that most of the people that we deal with are not writers, and I think that it's important to distinguish between someone who considers themselves to be a writer and someone who is not, but who has something that they would like to write and share through a book. So I'm really speaking to the second group of people who certainly can have something that's meaningful enough to them that they want to share it in a book. And I think that the important things are to get a sense of whether you, first of all, have enough passion for your subject to proceed with this idea, the energy and the focus that you need to get a book written, and then, of course, staying power to market the book once it's published. But you start with following that call. You start by writing and seeing what wants to be said and gradually becoming more specific about who your audience is and what it is they need to hear and understanding how to best convey your ideas to that audience. So you have to nurture that creative impulse a bit, I think, before you get too wrapped up in the outcome.
Now, what would you suggest the best way for someone to organize their writing once they get started?
Now, that's a really good question, Daniel. There are lots of ways, but I'm happy to offer a couple that I've used and that work for me. First of all, I like, pardon me, I like the tactile feel of paper, and I come from a generation where paper was an important part of my reality, and I did a lot of cutting and pasting physically and creating documents over the years. So I usually take a 3-ring binder, and I'll create tabs for each chapter, and for front matter and back matter, the things that go at the beginning of the book, the end of the book, maybe a tab for research and another tab for miscellaneous things. I'll write on the computer and then print things out on paper, and I usually do my editing, at least one or two stages of editing on paper because that's comfortable for me. But the document resides on the computer in a digitized format using Word. But you can also do a similar thing totally in a digital format by using Google Drive or Dropbox, or really any kind of storage system on your computer where you have subfolders for the different chapters. And there's another program called Evernote that lots of authors use. It's a great way to hold research in the research materials and snippets of material because it's a very easy way to search for things. So those are three tools or approaches that people can use.
Now, how does someone know if they have anything unique to say?
That is also a great question, and I get that question a lot from people when I talk to folks who are interested in writing a book. So, in fact, I created a little survey that we have on our website that, which is at www.dudleycourtpress.com/unique. It's a very short survey for people to be able to answer the question themselves. How do I know if I have something unique to say? So there are questions about how passionate you are. It's what I said before about needing a passion for your subject, the energy and focus to get it written, and the staying power to market your book once it's published. In our company, I just want to say, we don't start with the manuscript as most publishing companies do. We actually start working with the individual because, in my experience, this question of whether you have something unique to say isn't as important as how committed you are to saying it and sharing it.
Geez, it's just amazing when you think about some of these things that maybe people don't consider about. So, when it comes down to structure, how would you say is the best way for somebody to do that?
Well, there is no one magic answer to that. It depends so much on what the topic is, and also the audience. That I work with people all the time to help them structure their book. Here are a couple of ideas, though. You could come up with several themes that show up in your book, and the themes could be chapters, and in each chapter then you have stories or information that falls into the theme. I've helped practitioners identify the top 10 conditions that their clients complain about, and then they become the chapters of the book because those are the most important conditions to address. You can do something like ask 20 questions. If you are an expert in a field and you really know a great deal, you could simply write down what are the top 10 or 20 questions someone usually asks or actually should ask, and then you answer those questions and then you can turn the questions into chapter titles. So those are some possible ways to structure.
Now, how long would you say it takes to write a book?
Depends on how fast you write and how long your book is. It's a bit of a mathematical equation, but here's some numbers. If somebody, let's see, if you decided you needed to write a book that was 50,000 words, if you can write, say, 500 words an hour, that's going to take you, 100 hours. If you write for 10 hours a week, it's going to take you 10 weeks. Now, only you know how fast you write, and only you know whether what you write is a really solid first draft or it's the first of 5 or 6 drafts. So it depends on the the quality and quantity of the work that you produce in a certain amount of time, and then how much time a week you spend doing that.
Yeah, there's usually a lot of advice when it comes to how long it takes, things like that. So if a person decides to write a book, what are some practical tips you can give them so that they know more about the path ahead?
Well, let's see. In one of them, I guess I would say there are some myths that you need to be clear on. One of them is, first of all, you're not likely to make money from your book. That's a hard one for people to take in, because people have this fantasy that they'll be sitting on a beach collecting royalty checks, once they turn over their manuscript to the publisher, but that's not likely to happen. It's very easy to publish a book today, but it's the ease with which we can publish, because of technology, also allows, has created a far lower quality standard. There are lots of books that are just terrible out there today. So you can publish easily, but you can publish easily really badly, and you won't make any money from a badly produced book. I think that getting clear on your audience is important. This is another one that most authors I talk to, or potential authors, have such passion for their subject that they believe that everybody needs to read their book or will want to read their book. And so this is another myth that we have to deal with. And the fact of the matter is, not everybody is your audience. So you have to overcome that belief and then really focus on who is it that is going to benefit from your book, and who is it that's actually going to read your book and buy your book. And the more focused you become on that, the better your book will be, because you'll actually be writing for that audience. I think it's also important to think about your budget. Lots of people, again, think you can write and publish a book for free, and it's true, you can. But if you're trying to create a book to influence people to sell in the marketplace, to influence your position in your industry, to help you leverage your business in some way, you need to spend money on professional help, particularly editing and design. So those are practical tips. I would say find a publishing partner that you can trust, because it's hard. Most people are not going to get a traditional publishing deal, and it's easy to make so many mistakes in self-publishing. There's a whole world of hybrid publishers now, like W Corp Press, where we have relationships with our clients. We're not a self-publishing company, but we partner with our clients and to help them achieve their own goals.
It's interesting, because this day and age it's so easy to self-publish a book. So, why don't you've given some highlights, but why would people want to be or need to work with a publisher?
Oh, sure. Well, as I said, there are three tracks to publishing. There's traditional, where you submit your manuscript usually to a literary agent, who then tries to, if they accept it, then they try to sell it to a publisher, and then the publisher buys the rights, maybe or maybe not, but if they buy the rights, then they control whether the book ever gets published. So that's the traditional path, and it's still out there, and people can go down that road. But most people's books will not meet the standards and won't be picked up by traditional publishers. Then there's the totally do-it-yourself self-publishing route. And I understand that, because that's when I first wrote my book, I had that fantasy that some New York publisher was going to be lucky enough to get it. And when I realized that wasn't going to be the case, I looked at self-publishing, and frankly, I was dismayed by what I saw in terms of quality. And so I kind of went to school on my own, studying for hours and hours and going to meetings and classes and learning how to be a publisher, so that I could have my publishing company, which I started, publish my book. Now, that's a route that most people are not actually wanting to become publishers. They just want to be published authors. And so working with a hybrid publisher, that's somebody that's kind of in between who you pay for services, but you build a relationship and work in partnership with a hybrid publisher. Now, there are lots of companies that are called self-publishing services companies or vanity presses, and I just would encourage your listeners to examine the company that they're going to work with carefully. Make sure that you get testimonials that talk about how much integrity a company has, and because there are a lot of people out there who are preying on the dreams of folks who are not familiar with the industry. But at Dudley Court Press, as I said before, we start with the individual. We go through a whole process. We have our successful author system. That's a 7-step process. But the beginning of that is to really talk seriously about what the goals are of the author. And then we are very clear on what it will take to achieve those goals. So I think what happens, our clients, we have clients who have had experiences with some of those self-publishing services companies. We have clients who started down the self-publishing road and decided that working with us was much more satisfying because we provide a lot. We don't just provide a package of publishing services. We have developed long-term relationships with our clients, and we're always looking for new ways to market their books. Most of our authors have come back to do a second book with us. Some have come back to do a third book with us. So we must be doing something right. But I think unless you want to be a publisher, then finding a hybrid publisher to help you with your book is a wise path to take.
Wow, it's just amazing to think that there's so much to think about, especially if you think you're going to go out and do things on your own. You know, the time and the money that it can end up costing you to not be successful or even to get it out there in the first place. So how would you suggest someone works with the publisher if they decide to do this? You know, what's the best way that they can find and approach somebody in the publishing industry?
Well, if they're interested in a traditional publisher, there are resources. There are resources, of course, online, so you can just say, you know, who are the best publishers. But I would be your readers, or excuse me, your listeners. And I have now know a little bit more. If you're going to search something, I would search best traditional publishers. If that's what you're looking for, you can search for hybrid publishers, and you can search for self-publishing service companies. I would spend time doing research. One of the things to be aware of is that publishers specialize in different genres, and so depending on what you're writing, you're going to be an attractive candidate for a publisher or not. So if you're writing historical fiction set in the South, but there's no point in reaching out to a publisher that's publishing books about Western parks and nature. So you have to do some research, find out what the publisher's interests are. That's one thing. And then follow the publisher guidelines for submitting manuscripts. As I said, most publishers start with manuscripts. But we at Dudley Court Press don't. We start with individuals, and people can go to our website and see what we do, and there's a process there. It's at dudleycourtpress.com/get-started. That is the opening introductory discussion that we offer a complimentary conversation with anyone. But the process is generally to see if there's a fit between, and this is across the board, if there's a fit between the manuscript and the publisher. And then you want to look at budgets. Again, I will say, even if you proceed with the traditional publishing route, it's really important to understand that while you don't have to pay for publishing services in the traditional publishing world, you have to market your book, and you become an attractive author to or potential client to a traditional publisher if you already have a broad audience to sell the book to. So no matter where you are, if you're looking to do a commercial book, you have to understand that you will be involved in marketing your book. That's very critical.
Now, how did you get into the publishing industry?
Well, as I said earlier, I wrote a book several years ago. It's called Pay Attention, Say Thank You, 7 Rules and Practices for Joyful Living. And I was halfway through that book. I was inspired to write that. I had the call to write the book. I started writing it, and I had all these fantasies about how Oprah was still on TV at the time, and she was going to love it. It would be one of her in her book club, and New York publishers would be fighting over this book. And maybe halfway through the writing of it, as I did my research, I came to the realization that that was a fantasy. It was not going to happen. So how was I going to get my book published? And I happened to have I was semi-retired at the time, and so I had time to study the industry. And as I said, I looked around at self-publishing, and I was appalled by the quality of the books that I was seeing, and I decided I just didn't want to be associated with the self-publishing world. I didn't want to be a self-published author. And so I started a company, and I've run other companies before, and I have a background in the corporate world, and so that wasn't hard for me to set up a company and then learn. The important thing was to learn how to be a publisher. So I spent quite a bit of time working my way through, as I said, courses and industry meetings and learning everything I could. My book turned out to be pretty well accepted. It won an Arizona Book Award when it was published, and we have since sold the rights to publishers in India and where else did we publish? A couple of different countries, Germany, and in fact, a New York publisher did pick it up to create a hardcover gift edition, which has been on sale at Barnes & Noble now for a couple of years. So the book and the processes of publishing have worked out quite nicely. And then, honestly, Danielle, I had to make a decision back then. Do I spend my time marketing my book fully as a sort of a full-time occupation, becoming kind of a joy guru, or do I do something else? And I was enjoying the publishing so much, and I had several friends who asked me to help them publish books, that I decided to do that. And I spent 4 or 5 years as a publisher, but it was a hobby for me. I was working for friends, helping them publish books, and then I decided to turn it into a commercial business, and I found an author who I thought needed to write a book, and convinced him to do that, helped him to do that. We published that book 6 years ago, and he has since written a second book. We've done a second edition of his first book, and I'm very proud to say those 2 books are going to be featured in the PBS special that starts to air in March. So we've done well, and all of our commercial books rank in the top 1% on Amazon. So I feel very proud of what we're still a very small company, but what we do very well.
Mm-hmm. Certainly sounds that way, especially when you see opportunities like that present themselves when you follow the right procedure. And as you said, it may not be an easy road, but it's certainly one that you do thoroughly, and to get that story out there, there's no doubt about that. Gail, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the program today. And is there a website people can find out more about you and publishing and all that?
Yes, absolutely. Our website is www.dudleycourt Press. That's DudleyCourtPress.com. And we are there, and we are located in Southern Arizona. And I'm very happy. As I said, I love to talk to folks who
are interested in publishing a book. And I schedule half-hour complimentary conversations with people all the time. So if any of your listeners are interested, I'd be delighted to talk with them.
Well, very good. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today and sharing this valuable insight.
Well, thank you, Daniel. It's been a pleasure.
You bet. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. You can also discover more. Visit us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We do encourage you to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter to stay up to date on what's going on in the world of Beyond 50 as well as our upcoming shows. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.